Cuando le digo...
Perdón, ¿alguien más conoce a Gabriel Pasternak aquí? ¿Por qué están en este avión?
Damián Szifron's 2014 dark comedy. Liam, you chose this one. It's an Argentinian film. I know some people will know what this film is, this anthology of short films, but what brought it to your radar? Because certainly none of us had watched it before.
I can't really remember exactly where it came from. It was either Cinefix, which is like a pretty bloody good YouTube channel for just, like amping up your watch list, basically. And it kind of caught my attention possibly there, or I have a feeling that maybe I was wandering around HMV like a year or so back and I found it in the corner on one of the foreign film shelves. It was one of the two, but yeah, I can't really remember exactly where. I just remember the premise. Literally, it's a single line, and I just remember the premise of the film, like, just hooked my attention immediately. And it's been sitting in my watch list ever since.
All right, and so it intrigued you enough to suggest it for us to watch. What did you think about it?
I thought it was pretty bloody good, to be honest. Pretty sharp, pretty edgy, very dark, but also very funny. It did exactly what it said on the tin, The tale's pretty fucking wild. I thought the thing was structured really well. Like, I liked the diversity of starting points for each tale. In a couple of the tales, we start like way before all the grim action and are forced to wait for it and like anticipate it. But then in others, like the one with the drunk driving and shit, we're landed slap bang in the middle, and we're just dealing in the moment with all these kind of like insane repercussions. So I think the anthology structure of it, I don't know exactly how many tales there were, 5 or 6 or something like that, but I thought that worked really, really well for this kind of revenge genre. It was always holding my attention, like full attention throughout the runtime. And I think I was thinking about this like this morning. I think that it's partly because I knew from how the tale I'd just seen had ended, that there was likely to be some epic conclusion to this one I was in. And so I'm really sitting there like at the start of each tale watching and wondering how this like seemingly like placid scene is going to devolve into like chaos. That's a pretty special thing to experience as a viewer, to know for a certainty that your attention will be rewarded. And I think that's a really difficult thing for a creator to achieve. So on that level, pretty bloody brilliant.
Yeah, so if you include all of the tales, it's 6 if you include the scene on the plane, sort of before the title card. I know it was a really, really short one, but that sort of immediately gives you that idea of what's in store really for the next 2 hours. James, what did you think? What were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, I really, really liked it. I thought, again, it's a very interesting way of telling a story or bringing a theme to life. And as Liam touched on it, very clearly was all this idea of revenge that appeared throughout each of those short stories, and I thought it worked really, really well. I found in the majority of them there was kind of like a strange kind of catharsis as a viewer, just watching each of those scenes close out. You kind of felt there's been some strange completion that had just happened on each of the character arcs, whether it be them both destroying themselves or whether them both reuniting through both going through the struggle. You as a viewer were always left quite complete, and everything was kind of nicely wrapped up as you moved on to the next one, which I thought was something that they did really well. Because I think if you have a lot of short stories like that, one thing that I felt like I maybe could be left with is that, oh no, I really want to see how that one pans out. I want to stay with that tale for a little longer. But I thought they wrapped them up really nicely before they moved on to the next tale, which, yeah, no, I agree with him. I thought it was really, really good.
Have either of you got experience of watching anthologies before?
No, personally, no.
No, I don't think so.
Did you watch Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
Oh, actually, yes. Very good point. I have seen that. And I like that one as well. So maybe I just like them.
It takes a certain style to have to carry it through, and I think dark comedy is the perfect recipe for it, isn't it? because you can watch a 2-hour variety of different films, different stories, but there's a whole other dimension to it if you've got to take into account what style of film, what genre would fit at what point within this anthology. Whereas if you're just doing dark comedy the whole way through, I think builds that good feeling inside the viewer, and there's always that anticipation of what the next story is going to hold, and that definitely continued on as this went through. Jem, what were your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting what we were saying the other day about Amelie and how that was a unique take on introducing characters for those quick fire intros, likes and dislikes. Again, in this, I'm sure with any anthology film, you've got even less time than that, because you've got no backstory to each character, and the entire your entire knowledge of the character has to be expanded by the dialogue and the interactions in the moment, as opposed to any sort of you can't have a vast period of time as you would be able to do in a feature-length film. But the characters all still carry weight. I think my favourite 2 of the 6 were the car one with the landscapes were really, really nice. I liked a lot of the cinematography in that. And the last one at the end, the wedding, was really quite entertaining. But I think for all of them, because of how the first one goes and then the second one goes, right, something's going badly, and it's quite enjoyable thinking, oh, could it be that? What's going to happen here? And the whole way, some of them were quite easy to work out. So like the engineer with the parking charges, he showed that shot at the very beginning with the dynamite, and so you just knew that it would all end with the dynamite again. But others, you have absolutely no clue, like the wedding. You just have no idea where it's going to go, and it's quite entertaining.
I think you accept the wedding though, don't you, in that way? Because if the wedding was first, I think you'd be like, what the hell am I watching here? But because we've been through an hour and 40 minutes of all this other stuff before, it's way more acceptable. And by the end, you're like, by the conclusion, you're there like, yeah, man, I really, really rate that. But then if we'd seen that at any other point early on, we'd be like, this is just ridiculous. But you just sort of allow it.
I thought there would perhaps be more links to them than just purely revenge, but it worked quite nicely with only revenge being the thing. No one character was in 2 or anything like that, just completely standalone. Any one of them would have been good on their own, but I think they are better in this sort of feature-length film anthology format.
That was my favourite bit about it, the fact that it had no links. I really did like the fact it was completely broken up and segmented, and I thought the pacing and length of each tale was perfect. I agree with James about what he said about it being almost a couple of them being a cathartic experience, because I think a lot of the emotions that you would have experienced and the reactions to the situations are things that you would love to do but you would never consider. So although they are this kind of dark melodrama, it's compulsive viewing, and it never gets too sinister in a way, because partly you understand the genre from the first instance. I think that setting the scene on the plane is a really nice introduction and segue into the film to come, and I think because it's so short and sharp, you know what to expect. And I think the timing of them as well, as I mentioned just previously, I think the fact it starts with that with the shortest tale first, it enables you to get into the rhythm of the film really quickly without feeling like it's being cut short at each story point. I think that really helps it. So as you progress through, and then the wedding scene is obviously the longest, you get more and more fleshed out characters and broader scenes.
What was all of your favourite story? What was your favourite tale?
I thought the one that was most cinematically appealing was the one in Salta. But that's just like a really beautiful part of Argentina, the north. So it was quite a nice depiction of it. My personal favourite one was the family with the child that had been in the drunk driving incident, because I really liked the way the scene flipped, and the father just put his foot down. I thought it was really interesting negotiation, and I thought the theme of it was going to be this negotiation. And that was the one which I actually didn't really expect the ending to. I think that was the one that most surprised me. I'm not sure what everyone else thought, but I thought the theme of that had already played out, and it was just going to cut to black as he was leaving the gate. So I thought that one was quite it's dark but enjoyable.
Liam, what was your favourite of them all?
I like that one. That one was cool as well for me too. But I think the one that was sticking out for me and made me think the most was the car towing shenanigans. I think maybe was that the third tale or the fourth tale?
The fourth one.
With the bloke whose car gets towed because it was meant to be because it was supposedly on the wrong curb, and then he has to go through all of that bureaucratic kind of like rubbish to get it back. I just enjoyed that. When she does reveal to him that she wants a divorce, I just had that grim sense that like the chance for that guy to do right by his family was like hanging by a really tiny thread. It was like a really small decision that he made, but it ended up having like a really big, grim consequence. So that the whole car tow situation itself was like pretty despicable and like frustrating even in itself. But then it has the knock-on effect of being the last straw in his marriage. And I'm thinking like, guy, like if he just had like the equanimity, the calm, like just to have let this shitty thing wash over him, then he'd still have his wife and kid. So I think that kind of like butterfly effect was pretty well executed in that one.
But the ending of that one was interesting.
I felt really grim just watching that guy's shit unraveling the whole time. And I think that landed partly because we were in his perspective the whole time. Like you see the picture being painted, and then you watch as like one seemingly innocuous thing leads to another, and then very soon the picture's ruined. And that was like for me quite thrilling, but quite unnerving to watch.
Sorry, Jem, go on. You were saying.
So the ending of that one was interesting because it was the only one without anyone hurt, as it said in the newspapers and stuff. He was a bomb technician. He calculated the exact radius to do maximum damage without killing people. And then he was hailed a hero, and then it cuts to that prison scene, and his wife gives him a kiss, and all the inmates are clapping. And I thought that was a bit almost like a dream thing. I didn't quite know if that was fiction or not.
Did everyone take that to be like false, or did people see that as like being the?
I thought it would cut to him lying in his cell, dreaming that, but it didn't, and it just faded to black.
Yeah, that's what I initially thought. I thought it was him imagining that, but then when it's not, then it's like, oh no, clearly not. Maybe it's just it's someone fighting back against society, and in that hyperbolic way, it's he's the hero, and he's a literal hero.
The road rage one was interesting. I thought that was certainly the most intimately brutal. When they're upside down in the car and they've got less than a meter each to they can't even throw a full punch, and they're just sort of chipping away at each other. It's just.
I love the balance of power in that one. How the balance of power kept flipping between them each time, but as it was like escalating each time. So he pushed his car into the ditch. So it's like, okay, he's won, but as he was driving off, the guy's like, I'm going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to kill you now. Fails at that, and it just slowly builds and builds and builds to this and then the end of it, where they're like, was it a passion crime or something like that? And it's like, people would interpret their death as like they were like lovers or something like that. Was it a crime of passion? It's like, actually, no, the reality was they actually hated each other.
But it was a crime of passion. That's the irony of it, is that each of their attempts to try and kill one another was led to them getting killed. Like he tried to run him over, burst his tyre, ended up in the river. Then he tries to set the thing on fire to blow him up, and ends up blowing them. So that was the irony of it. And that's why I found it so funny when they dropped that line at the end. Yeah.
I thought that one was really clever. I like the one with the guy running for mayor as well at the cafe early on when the rat poison. I quite like that one. That was a nice one to ease us into it. It broke down that wall of societal norm, I think, quite early on, which teed us up nicely for the rest. They all complemented each other in a way, just because they did sort of escalate as they went on. But